The sparkling gemstone necklace. The scent of boiled cabbage and mothballs hit Lily as she stepped inside. Uncle George stood in the doorway, his face a roadmap of wrinkles etched deeper than she remembered. "Well, look what the cat dragged in," he grumbled, though a flicker of something almost resembling a smile crossed his lips. "Hello, Uncle George," Lily said brightly, hoisting her small suitcase. "It's lovely to see you." He grunted and gestured her inside. Aunt Mildred bustled in from the kitchen, her floral dress a riot of clashing colors. "Lily, darling, you're here. Come in, come in. George, don't just stand there like a lump. Take her bag." Mildred enveloped Lily in a hug that smelled of lavender and something vaguely synthetic. "You've grown. Let me look at you. That's a charming necklace." Her eyes lingered on the sparkling gemstones, a strange glint in their depths. Lily beamed, touching the cool surface of the largest gem, a vibrant peridot. "Thank you. It was my mother's." "Oh, sentimental things," Mildred said dismissively, though her gaze remained fixed on the necklace. "Come along, dinner's almost ready. George, stop gawking and get the girl settled in." Dinner was a strained affair. George complained about the price of everything, from potatoes to petrol, while Mildred peppered Lily with questions about her life, her friends, and her future plans. Lily answered politely, trying to ignore the way Mildred's eyes kept drifting back to the necklace. "Such a shame about your mother," Mildred said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "She always had such exquisite taste. That necklace, well, it must be worth a small fortune." "It's priceless to me," Lily replied, clutching it instinctively. George snorted. "Priceless doesn't pay the bills, girl. You should think about what you're going to do with it. Don't want it getting stolen now, do we?" The comment hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. Lily felt a shiver run down her spine. She forced a smile. "I'll be careful, Uncle George." After dinner, Mildred insisted on showing Lily to her room. It was the same guest room she'd stayed in countless times before. Small, slightly musty, with a faded floral wallpaper and a bed that sagged in the middle. "I've put fresh sheets on the bed," Mildred said, patting the lumpy mattress. "And I've left a hot water bottle for you. It gets quite chilly at night." "Thank you, Aunt Mildred," Lily said. "Now, you get some rest," Mildred said, her smile a little too wide. "We have a busy day planned for tomorrow. We're going to visit Mrs. Higgins, you know, the one with the prize-winning dahlias. She's just dying to meet you." Lily watched her aunt leave, a knot forming in her stomach. Something about Mildred's eagerness felt unsettling. She closed the door and leaned against it, her hand going to the necklace. The cool weight of the gemstones was strangely comforting. She took off her shoes and carefully placed her suitcase on the floor. The room felt oppressive, filled with the ghosts of memories, both good and bad. She changed into her pajamas, a soft cotton set that smelled faintly of home. Before climbing into bed, she took off the necklace and laid it on the bedside table. The gemstones glinted in the dim light, each one a tiny spark of color. She stared at it for a long moment, remembering the day her mother had given it to her. "This necklace holds a piece of my heart," her mother had said, her voice soft and loving. "Wear it always, and remember that I'm always with you." Tears pricked at Lily's eyes. She picked up the necklace, the familiar weight grounding her. It felt wrong to leave it on the table. She carefully fastened the clasp around her neck, the cool metal, a reassuring presence against her skin. She climbed into bed, pulling the covers up to her chin. The hot water bottle radiated warmth, but it didn't quite reach the chill in her heart. She closed her eyes, focusing on the feel of the necklace against her skin, trying to block out the unsettling feeling that had settled over her since arriving at her aunt and uncle's house. Sleep came slowly, a restless, uneasy slumber filled with fragmented dreams and unsettling shadows. She dreamt of grasping hands and glittering gems, of whispers and hidden meanings. Even in sleep, her hand instinctively went to her throat, clutching the sparkling gemstone necklace as if her life depended on it. The missing sparkle. Lily jolted awake. A shard of dawn sliced through the cloying floral drapes, illuminating a patch of ceiling she didn't recognize. Disoriented, she struggled to place herself. Then, the heavy sweetness of old potpourri and the remembered tension of last night's supper crashed over her. Uncle George and Aunt Mildred's. Instinctively, her hand went to her throat, seeking the familiar reassurance of the necklace. Empty air, a jolt of pure panic. She sat up, heart thudding a frantic rhythm against her sternum. The clasp must have failed, she told herself, scrambling onto her knees. Maybe it had slid beneath the pillowcase. She flung the covers back, fingers combing through the stiff, immaculate linen. Nothing. Desperation mounting, she peered under the bed, into the shadowy recesses beneath the imposing mahogany furniture. Still, nothing. A glacial dread began to creep in. The necklace wasn't merely misplaced, it was stolen. She stumbled from the bed, dragging on the silk monstrosity Aunt Mildred had foisted upon her, a riot of garish roses blooming across its surface. Bare feet whispered across the thick, patterned carpet as she hurried to the door. "Aunt Mildred?" she called, her voice a shaky thread. "Aunt Mildred, are you up?" Moments later, Mildred appeared, sleep-rumpled and with curlers escaping her graying hair. She was swathed in a quilted pink robe, a lighter, somehow even more offensive echo of Lily's floral prison. "Lily, darling, what is it?" she mumbled, her voice still thick with sleep. "Is everything all right?" "The necklace." Lily burst out, her voice cracking. "It's gone. I can't find it anywhere." Mildred's eyes widened, but the surprise felt rehearsed. "Gone? What on earth do you mean, gone?" she asked, her tone sharpening. "Just gone. I had it on when I went to sleep, and now it's vanished." Lily's hands fluttered like trapped birds. "Well, let's not jump to conclusions," Mildred soothed, though her own movements betrayed a sudden agitation as she entered the room. "Perhaps it simply came unfastened. These things happen, you know." She made a perfunctory show of searching, patting the pillows and giving a cursory glance beneath the duvet. Her actions lacked conviction, almost dismissive. "Are you absolutely certain you were wearing it, dear?" she inquired, her gaze locking onto Lily's with unsettling intensity. "Maybe you removed it and simply forgot." "Positive," Lily insisted, her voice unwavering despite the tremor in her hands. "I remember holding on to it as I drifted off. I wouldn't take it off and not remember." Mildred sighed, a theatrical sound. "Well, I'm at a complete loss. I certainly haven't seen it. George hasn't been near the room. Perhaps you dropped it somewhere else in the house?" The suggestion was ludicrous. Lily hadn't parted with the necklace since her arrival. "I haven't been anywhere else," she stated. Mildred threw up her hands. "Well, I don't know what to tell you. Perhaps it will reappear. These things often do. Now, why don't you get dressed and come down for breakfast? A cup of tea will do you good." She whisked herself out of the room, leaving Lily stranded, the floral silk now feeling like sandpaper against her skin. Lily remained motionless for a long moment, her thoughts a whirlwind. Could she have mislaid it? Impossible. The necklace was too significant, too deeply cherished. A wave of nausea surged through her. The flimsy excuses, the half-hearted search, the overly solicitous expression in Mildred's gaze, it felt wrong, profoundly wrong. Her eyes swept the guest room, lingering on the elaborate, antique pieces. Each exuded an aura of manufactured elegance, a carefully maintained pretense, just like Aunt Mildred. The disquiet she'd felt the night before hardened into a chilling conviction. The necklace hadn't simply disappeared, it had been pilfered, and she had a very clear idea of who the culprit was. She had to retrieve it, and she had to do it before they could do something irreversible. Aunt Mildred's lost necklace. A blade of sunlight, sharp and accusatory, pierced the curtain's meager defense, spotlighting dust motes pirouetting in the stagnant air. Lily winced, levering herself upright. Last night's manic energy had evaporated, leaving behind a residue of bleak despair. The necklace remained absent. She swung her legs over the edge, the coarse rug a gritty rasp against her skin. A cursory glance around the room proved futile. She'd already scoured every conceivable hiding place, beneath the bed, within the wardrobe, even the ancient forgotten suitcase gathering dust atop it. Gone, utterly. Driven by a burgeoning desperation, she slipped from the room. The house exhaled quiet, punctuated only by the grandfather clock's metronomic pronouncements in the hall. She edged toward the living room, peering through the barely parted door, unoccupied. Then, a sound, Uncle George's voice, muted but recognizable, emanating from the kitchen. He wasn't alone in his discourse. Lily pressed closer, her pulse drumming a frantic tattoo against her ribs. Yes, Crumbly, that's right. Listen, are you positive about that price? I had thought you quoted. Oh, fine. Just be done with it. I need the funds. A pregnant pause. Lily could almost visualize the other party's response. No, she suspects nothing. Just some bauble, that's all it amounted to. Sentimental attachment, or so it seemed. The usual, isn't it? Just ensure it disappears, understood? I don't fancy its reappearance. Lily's breath caught in her throat. A worthless bauble? Gone for good? Icy tendrils of dread coiled around her heart. Tomorrow morning, then. Excellent. I'll be here. Punctuality matters. The line died. Lily reeled back, her legs betraying her. She clapped a hand over her mouth, suppressing a rising sob. It was the truth, stark and ugly. Uncle George had bartered it away. Not misplaced, not borrowed. Sold, with premeditated callousness, her mother's keepsake. A tidal wave of sickness threatened to overwhelm her. The betrayal registered as a physical assault, stealing her breath. How could he stoop so low? This wasn't merely about finance, not truly. It was a desecration, a profound disrespect towards her memories, her very being, her mother's legacy. A chair scraped harshly across the kitchen floor. Uncle George was approaching. Lily bolted back to her sanctuary, slamming the door an instant before his ponderous footsteps echoed near. She dove onto the bed, burying her face in the pillow, stifling the sobs that now convulsed her frame. A knock. Lily, awake? Just wondering if you'd happen to see. Oh, never mind. His tone was husky, yet a subtle tremor betrayed him, a flash of guilt that only intensified her fury. He was aware, fully cognizant of his actions, and shamelessly attempting to feign innocence. She remained mute, mimicking slumber. After a drawn-out moment, she heard him retreat. Prostrate on the bed, a transformation began within her. The initial shock and grief transmuted into something tougher, colder, a steely determination. This extended beyond a mere piece of jewelry. This was about redress. About forcing them to comprehend the magnitude of their perfidy. About extracting retribution. She sat upright, swiping at her tear-streaked face. The sunbeam, now at a different angle, illuminated a small wooden box resting on her nightstand. Within lay a scattering of her mother's remaining articles, a faded photograph, a desiccated flower, a diminutive silver locket. Trinkets that George and Mildred would likely deem valueless. But Lily recognized their immeasurable worth, and she swore she would not allow them to escape accountability. Not this time. She rose, her movements precise, resolute. The hollow despair had been supplanted by a fierce, burning resolve. The rules had changed, and Lily was prepared to engage. She approached the window, gazing upon the sun-drenched garden. Her mother's roses bloomed in vibrant profusion, their vivid hues a stark counterpoint to the storm raging within her. A plan began to crystallize, intricate and thorny, resembling the rose bushes themselves. A scheme that would compel Mildred and George to rue the day they dared to cross her path. Grandma Rose's secret. The screen door slammed shut behind Lily, the sound swallowed by the humid morning air. She hurried down the overgrown path separating her house from Grandma Rose's, each footfall heavy with dread. Explaining this, admitting she'd been so easily manipulated, it felt like peeling back another layer of her skin. Rose Petal's porch was a riot of color, hanging baskets overflowing with fuchsia petunias and vibrant impatiens. The air hung thick with their sweet, cloying scent. Lily hesitated at the bottom of the steps, composing herself. She needed to be strong, for Grandma Rose's sake. But the moment Rose Petal opened the door, her carefully constructed facade crumbled. One look at Rose's kind, wrinkled face, framed by wisps of silvery hair escaping her braid, and the tears started afresh. "Lily, sweetheart, what is it?" Rose's voice was a soothing balm, pulling Lily into a warm embrace. Come in. Come in. You're shaking like a leaf." Rose led her to the floral-printed sofa in the living room, the same sofa Lily had spent countless hours on as a child, listening to Rose's stories. The familiar scent of lavender and old books filled the air, a comforting counterpoint to the turmoil inside her. Lily sank into the cushions, unable to meet Rose's concerned gaze. She stared at the faded pattern, tracing the outline of a rose with her finger. It's the necklace, Grandma Rose." Rose settled beside her, her hand resting gently on Lily's bier. "Your mother's necklace? What about it, dear?" The words tumbled out, a jumbled mess of betrayal and anger. She told Rose about waking up to find it gone, about overhearing George's phone call, about the callous way he'd dismissed its sentimental value. Her voice cracked with each sentence, the weight of the morning pressing down on her. Rose listened in silence, her expression unchanging. Only the subtle tightening of her lips betrayed her emotions. When Lily finally finished, breathless and raw, Rose squeezed her hand. "Oh, Lilybug," she murmured, using the childhood nickname. "I'm so sorry. That necklace meant so much to your mother, and to you." "He didn't even care, Grandma Rose. He talked about it like it was any old thing, like it didn't mean anything at all." Lily swiped at the tears streaming down her face. "I hate them. I really, really hate them." Rose didn't chide her for her anger. Instead, she nodded slowly. "I understand, sweetheart. You have every right to be angry." She paused, her gaze distant. "There's something you need to know, Lily. Something your mother wanted me to tell you, when the time was right." Lily looked up, her heart pounding. What could be more shocking than what she'd already learned this morning? Rose took a deep breath. "This house, Lily, it's not entirely George and Mildred's." Lily frowned. "What do you mean?" "When your grandfather passed, he left the house to both your mother and George. They were co-owners." Lily stared at her, dumbfounded. But George always acted like it was all his." "He probably hoped you'd never find out. Your mother never wanted to cause trouble. She was always trying to keep the peace." Rose's voice was tinged with sadness. "But after she died, she left her share. To you, Lily." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Lily's mind struggled to process the information. I own part of the house?" Rose nodded. "You are a co-owner, yes. Your mother made me the executor of her will and stipulated that you would inherit her share of the property. You are also the sole beneficiary of her estate." A slow burn of understanding began to spread through Lily, replacing the despair with a flicker of something else. Something stronger. Hope? Maybe even power? "So, George needs my permission to sell the house," Lily said, her voice barely a whisper. "He does. He cannot legally sell the property without your consent. And because you are the sole beneficiary, you are entitled to any proceeds from the sale of your mother's assets, which includes the house." Lily felt a surge of adrenaline. This changed everything. This wasn't just about a stolen necklace anymore. This was about reclaiming what was rightfully hers, about holding George and Mildred accountable for their lies and their greed. A small, dangerous smile touched her lips. "Grandma Rose," she said, her voice gaining strength, "I think it's time we paid George and Mildred a visit." Lily's clever plan. "Legally speaking," Grandma Rose began, her gaze fixed on the swirling leaves in her teacup, George can't simply offload the house without your say, so, regardless of whose name is etched on the deed, your inheritance from your mother grants you co-ownership. He requires your signature, Lilybug. Lily's eyes widened, the cozy kitchen failing to dispel the frigid dread gripping her. But, he mentioned offers, agreements pending. Humph, Rose scoffed, the sound like dry leaves skittering across pavement. Let him blather. Words are just air. It solidifies only upon your signature. And that, my dear, is not forthcoming. A spark ignited within Lily's gaze, a fledgling flame against encroaching shadows. So, I hold the cards here? Rose's weathered hand met Lily's across the checkered tablecloth. You wield more influence than you realize, child. Your mother always said you possessed a slow-burning fuse, but an explosive core. Time to ignite that core. The spark brightened, a small but defiant fire. But what can I possibly do? He pilfered the necklace. He manipulated me. He stole from me. Lily's voice fractured, raw with hurt and betrayal. Rose's grip tightened. First, breathe deep. Second, survey the terrain. This house, Lily, is your stronghold, your bartering chip. See it as both a bulwark and a blade. For the ensuing hour, Rose diligently dissected property law's intricacies, employing straightforward language, circumventing convoluted terminology. She illuminated Lily's entitlements, George's constraints, and the potential quicksand ahead. Lily absorbed every word, her thoughts churning, annotating furiously on a notepad. She discovered avenues of legal redress, restraining orders, and the clout of a proficient attorney. Each revelation felt like cementing another brick in a protective barrier against George. As the afternoon sun dipped lower, painting long shadows across the room, Lily began piecing together a strategy. A chancy gambit, a delicate pas de deux of pretense and calculated moves, yet the only apparent path toward reclaiming what he'd seized. I need to worm my way back into his good graces, Lily murmured, her tone barely audible. I need to lull him into thinking I've pardoned him. Rose arched a skeptical brow. A tall order, child. He's wounded you profoundly. I know, Lily replied, her resolve hardening her jawline. It's the sole recourse. Direct confrontation will only make him retreat into defensiveness. He'll stash the necklace better, he'll strong-arm the house sale. But if I adopt the guise of a bereaved, forgiving spouse, he might lower his defenses. Rose completed, a glint of approval flickering in her eyes. A treacherous game, Lily. Are you sure you possess the steel for it? Lily inhaled deeply, the comforting aroma of Rose's lavender sachets filling her senses. I must. I refuse to let him triumph. The initial step loomed as the most daunting. That evening, Lily dialed George's number. She strained to imbue her voice with frailty, contrition. George, she uttered. I've given this a lot of thought, and my feelings haven't changed. The words felt like ash in her mouth, yet she persevered. I know we've faced difficulties, but I still want to make it work. Can't we at least talk? A prolonged silence hung in the air. Lily could almost visualize George's mental gears grinding, assessing the ramifications of her sudden about-face. At last, he responded. Lily, I hardly know what to say. Just say you'll meet me, she pressed. Say we'll give it another shot. He conceded to a dinner rendezvous the following evening. Upon disconnecting the call, a wave of nausea threatened to overwhelm her. The mere prospect of spending an entire evening masking her true feelings, of simulating forgiveness for his treachery, felt almost insurmountable. Yet, it was an unfortunate necessity. A means to a justified end. The ensuing day, Lily devoted herself to honing her performance. She selected a simple, elegant dress, flattering, yet demure. She meticulously applied makeup, accentuating her eyes while camouflaging the stress lines etched around her mouth. She practiced her smile before the mirror, striving for authenticity. It felt like preparing for opening night, her fate hinging on the critic's response. Entering the restaurant that night, she spotted George awaiting her at a secluded corner table. His visage betrayed nervousness, uncertainty. Lily pasted on a smile and advanced towards him, her heart hammering against her ribs. The curtain had risen. The sweetest revenge. The next morning, Lily woke with a resolve that felt almost foreign. The grief was still there, a dull ache behind her breastbone, but layered over it was a steely determination. Today, the sweetness began. She started with Mildred. She found her aunt perched precariously on a stepladder, attempting to dust the ludicrously ornate chandelier in the dining room. Mildred's face was flushed, her silver hair escaping its careful arrangement. "Aunt Mildred, let me," Lily offered, her voice laced with what she hoped sounded like genuine concern. "You'll hurt yourself." Mildred, startled, nearly lost her balance. George, predictably, was nowhere in sight. "Honestly, Lily, I'm perfectly capable," she began, but the wobble in her voice betrayed her. Lily persisted, gently but firmly taking the duster. "Please, I want to help. Besides," she added, lowering her voice conspiratorially, "you know George never lifts a finger." Mildred visibly softened, a flicker of something akin to gratitude, or perhaps just relief, in her eyes. "Well, all right, dear, if you insist. But be careful, those crystals are frightfully delicate, and George would have my head if one broke." Lily spent the next hour dusting, polishing, and generally making herself useful. She listened patiently as Mildred regaled her with complaints about the house, the drafty windows, the temperamental plumbing, the sheer expense of keeping it all running. Lily absorbed every detail, cataloging each problem like ammunition. "This house is just so big for only 2 people," Lily remarked casually, while polishing a silver candlestick. "It must be a lot of work." Mildred sighed dramatically. "You have no idea, dear. George keeps saying we should downsize, but where would we go? Everything's so expensive these days." Lily bit back a smile. The seed was planted. Later that afternoon, she turned her attention to George. He was slumped in his armchair in the living room, the newspaper spread across his ample belly, snoring softly. The air hung thick with the smell of stale tobacco and impending rain. Lily went to the kitchen and started baking. She remembered George's fondness for chocolate chip cookies, a weakness he usually tried to hide beneath a gruff exterior. She mixed the batter with practiced ease, humming softly to herself. As the aroma of warm vanilla and melting chocolate filled the house, George stirred, sniffing the air like a bloodhound. "What's that infernal racket?" he grumbled, lumbering into the kitchen. Lily turned, feigning surprise. "Oh, Uncle George, I didn't realize you were awake. I just thought I'd bake some cookies. Remember how much you used to love them?" George's eyes, usually narrowed and suspicious, widened slightly. A flicker of something resembling fondness briefly crossed his face. "Well, I suppose a cookie wouldn't hurt," he conceded, reaching for one still warm from the oven. Lily watched him eat, her expression carefully neutral. "So, Uncle George," she began as casually as she could manage, "I was wondering about the house. Grandma Rose always talked about the history of it, all the families who have lived here." George swallowed the last of his cookie, crumbs clinging to his chin. Old house, old stories. Nothing you need to worry your pretty little head about." "But I'm interested," Lily pressed gently. "Did Grandma Rose ever talk about any renovations or anything? I was just admiring the woodwork in the library, and it seems so original." George puffed out his chest slightly. "Your grandmother was very particular about this house. Didn't like anyone messing with it. Always going on about preserving its character." He paused, considering. "Had some roof work done years back. And the plumbing, of course. Always something going wrong with the plumbing." Lily filed away the information. Roof and plumbing. Potential leverage. As the days turned into weeks, Lily continued her performance. She helped with chores, ran errands, and listened patiently to Mildred's endless gossip. She baked cookies for George, flattered his ego, and peppered him with seemingly innocent questions about the house and its history. Each interaction was a calculated move, a subtle manipulation designed to lull them into a false sense of security. It wasn't easy. The constant pretense, the forced smiles, the suppressed anger, it all took a toll. But Lily knew she couldn't afford to break character. She had to remain the sweet, forgiving niece, the reformed prodigal returned to the fold. Because beneath the surface of her newfound amiability, a plan was brewing. A plan that involved stolen jewelry, a crumbling house, and the sweetest revenge of all, vacation dreams. The scent of lemon polish hung heavy in the air, a cloying sweetness that did little to mask the underlying staleness of the crumbly household. Lily, perched precariously on a wobbly stool, dusted the top shelf of the china cabinet. Mildred, plump and perfumed, bustled around the kitchen island, humming a tuneless melody as she sliced cucumbers with excessive vigor. "Such a help you are, Lily Petal," Mildred chirped, not meeting Lily's eye. "Honestly, I don't know what we'd do without you these days." Lily offered a saccharine smile. "Happy to help, Aunt Mildred." The saccharin was necessary to mask the bile rising in her throat. The help consisted mostly of observing and listening, gathering ammunition for the battle to come. The humming stopped abruptly. Mildred's voice lowered conspiratorially. "George has been working so hard, you know. Simply burning the candle at both ends." Lily feigned concern. "Oh dear, is he all right?" She knew perfectly well he was all right, just incredibly pleased with himself for his recent windfall. Mildred waved a dismissive hand, her rings flashing. "Oh, he's fine. Just needs a break. A change of scenery, perhaps." She paused, her eyes gleaming with a light Lily hadn't seen before, a light that wasn't entirely kind. Somewhere exotic. Lily carefully placed a chipped teacup back on the shelf. "Exotic?" Mildred launched into a detailed explanation of the benefits of sunshine on vitamin D production. It was a rambling, illogical monologue punctuated by significant glances and vague pronouncements about needing to recharge. Lily tuned out the specifics, focusing instead on the underlying message. Mildred was planning something big, and it involved spending a considerable amount of money, money that rightfully belonged to Lily. Later, while Mildred was napping, a loud, snorting affair that shook the very foundations of the house, Lily ventured into the master bedroom. The room smelled of mothballs and George's cheap aftershave, an unsettling combination. She started with George's sock drawer, finding nothing but neatly rolled socks and a disconcerting collection of lint. Next, she tackled Mildred's side of the dresser. The top drawers were filled with silk scarves and costume jewelry, gaudy trinkets that, Lily suspected, were purchased in bulk from discount websites. The lower drawers held stacks of folded sweaters and lingerie, smelling faintly of lavender. In the bottom drawer, tucked beneath a pile of lacy slips, Lily found it. A glossy travel brochure. Paradise Found, the islands of Tahiti. Turquoise waters, white sand beaches, and impossibly tanned couples graced the cover. Lily's stomach clenched. Inside, the brochure was dog-eared and highlighted, particularly around the section detailing overwater bungalows and all-inclusive packages. The price tags were circled in bright pink marker. So, that's where her grandmother's necklace was going. Not towards desperately needed home repairs, not towards easing George's burden, but towards mai tais and sun-drenched indolence. Closing the brochure, Lily replaced it exactly as she had found it. A surge of cold anger, sharper and more focused than anything she had felt before, coursed through her veins. This wasn't just about the necklace anymore. This was about principle, about justice, about taking back what was rightfully hers, and then some. Mildred and George had underestimated her. They saw her as a naive, grieving girl, easily manipulated and dismissed. They thought they could steal from her and get away with it. They were wrong. Back in her cramped attic room, Lily stared out the dusty window. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the overgrown garden. She could almost hear the waves lapping against a Tahitian shore, the clinking of ice in a cocktail glass. The image fueled her resolve. The game had changed. She was no longer playing defense. It was time to go on the offensive. She pulled out the crumpled legal document she had found tucked away in her grandmother's dresser. The one that stated, in surprisingly clear language, that she owned 1/3 of the house. Her fingers traced the faded ink, a plan forming in her mind. A plan that would turn Mildred and George's paradise into a living hell. They wanted a vacation? She'd give them one they would never forget. The sold sign. The taxi motor whined, a mechanical dragon sighing outside the wrought iron. George, wrestling a valise suspiciously bulging with Lily's effects, snapped directions at Mildred. She darted about like a hummingbird on high alert, rechecking bolts and murmuring about travel documents. From the kitchen window, Lily observed the scene, cradling a tepid cup. Each twitch of Mildred's enormous shades, each forced grin George threw her way, stoked the quiet inferno simmering within her. "Right on cue," Grandma Rose announced, materializing in the doorway. Her eyes held a spark of impish delight. "Curtain up, darling." Lily finished her tea, the acrid taste a welcome contrast to the cloying performance unfolding outside. "Curtain up," she echoed, her smile a reflection of Rose's own. When the cab finally disappeared, the ensuing silence felt vast and sudden, quickly dispelled by Rose's gentle vocalizing. The hum evolved into a spirited melody as they stepped from the house. "Business first," Rose declared, producing a familiar tote bag from some hidden dimension. "Time to commission that 'for sale' placard. I have just the agency in mind." The real estate office reeked of furniture polish and ambition. Mrs. Davies, Rose's hand-picked agent, greeted them with a kilowatt smile. A dynamo of efficiency, she fired off queries about square footage and neighborhood perks. Lily, clutching the deed like a shield, allowed Rose to orchestrate the conversation, interjecting only when necessary. The agent, a shrewd operator, sensed the undercurrent between them, but prudently ignored it. "Well, Mrs. Davies stated, her tone impeccably professional after their tour, "the market presents a unique opportunity. Given the location and the inherent character of the property, we can certainly be assertive with the listing price. We'll schedule a photo shoot for tomorrow, and the listing should be live before the weekend." "Splendid!" Rose exclaimed, clapping her hands. "And the signage?" "The sign will be erected first thing," Mrs. Davies assured, her smile unwavering. A little birdie confided that timing is paramount. She winked at Rose, a silent agreement. The following morning arrived painted in sharp, vibrant hues. Lily circled the living room, her nerves thrumming like an overwound clock. Rose, serenely knitting in her favorite wingback chair, appeared oblivious. "Patience, dear," she murmured, never glancing up. Rome wasn't liquidated overnight. Before Lily could point out the obvious, a truck grumbled to a halt by the gate. A youth in a fluorescent safety vest hopped out and wrestled a substantial sign from the truck bed. Mesmerized, Lily watched him drive the stake into the earth. The sold sign, bold and irrevocable, blazed in the morning light. A surge of something akin to joy coursed through Lily. A laugh escaped her, a sound both manic and light. Rose joined in, her laughter a warm, comforting harmony to Lily's edgy delight. "Well, my dear." Rose chuckled, dabbing at her eye. "Looks like we've officially launched our campaign." Lily drew a deep breath, the air suddenly charged with potential. "Campaign it is," she responded, her voice steady. She stepped onto the porch, her bare feet finding the cool boards. She gazed at the sign, its defiant lettering a promise of things to come. The shrill of the phone cut through the air. Lily checked the display. It was George. She sent it straight to voicemail. Let him fret. Let him wonder. Let him taste the first sharp tang of apprehension. The game, she understood, was truly underway. Panic, on vacation. Azure water kissed George's bare feet as he stood on the beach, a melting ice cream cone turning his hand into a sticky mess. Underneath a flamboyant flowered parasol, Mildred devoured a celebrity rag, dark glasses perched precariously on her nose. The tableau was one of perfect leisure, yet unease already gnawed at George. 2 days into their lavish getaway, a gift from a source he preferred to ignore, his conscience began to prick. A buzz from his phone shattered the artificial peace. An unknown number. Probably another telemarketer. He almost ignored it, but Mildred fixed him with a sharp glare from above her magazine. "Are you going to get that, George? It might be important." With a sigh, he wiped his sticky palm on his Hawaiian shirt and answered, "Hello?" A voice, shrill and laced with hysteria, squawked through the speaker. "Mr. Crumbly, it's Mrs. Higgins from down the street. You need to come home. Immediately." George frowned, puzzled. "Mrs. Higgins, what's wrong? We're on vacation." "Your house, Mr. Crumbly. There's a for sale sign planted right in the front lawn, and strangers are traipsing all over the property, peering through the windows. It's just unbelievable." The remnants of the ice cream slipped from his fingers, landing with a soft plop on the sand. He gaped at the sugary ruin. "What are you talking about? That's impossible." "I'm telling you, Mr. Crumbly. Large, bright sign. For sale. And that stuck-up realtor, Miss Dubois, is showing people around. I saw them myself." A wave of crimson crept up George's neck. "There must be some mistake. We'll get back to you," he stammered, terminating the call with a shaky hand. Mildred lowered her magazine, her eyes like slits. "Well, what was that all about, and why the mess?" His voice strained, fighting down panic. George relayed Mrs. Higgins' alarming message. Mildred's reaction was immediate and explosive. "For sale? Our house? The nerve of that? That viper?" She sputtered, her features twisted with fury. With a violent rip, she tore the magazine in two, sending glossy shards scattering onto the beach. "That's my home. Our home. How dare she? The absolute gall." "Now, Mildred, calm yourself." George managed weakly, though his guts twisted with a potent brew of apprehension and rage. "There's probably a simple explanation." He doubted it profoundly. "Simple explanation? Are you daft, George? She's selling our house, after everything we've done?" Mildred's voice soared, drawing curious glances from neighboring sunbathers. "We'll call her," George said, retrieving his phone. "We'll straighten this out." He scrolled through his contacts, his finger hovering over Lily's name. He dreaded this conversation. It went directly to voicemail. He tried again, and again. Each attempt met with the same cheerfully infuriating recording. Mildred snatched the device from his grip and flung it into the sand. "Phone calls won't solve anything. That conniving little she-devil is doing this deliberately. She's trying to destroy us." The carefully constructed facade of a relaxed vacationer shattered completely. The nagging guilt blossomed into a full-blown monster of resentment. He had been so close. So close to escaping the consequences. "We have to go back," he declared, his voice now sharp with purpose. "We have to stop her." With frantic, jerky movements, Mildred was already shoving her belongings into her designer tote. "Pack your things, George, at once, and book the first flight out of here. I will not let her get away with this." The gaudy, floral umbrella lay abandoned, a defeated heap on the beach. The half-eaten ice cream dissolved, an overlooked sacrifice to the encroaching tide. Paradise lost. Unadulterated panic had taken root. Justice and forgiveness. The taxi screeched to a halt in front of the house, spewing gravel across the meticulously manicured lawn. George, his face a mottled red, practically threw himself out of the cab, leaving Mildred to struggle with her overflowing suitcase, stuffed with duty-free perfume and gaudy trinkets. "Sold." George roared, his voice cracking with disbelief as he pointed a trembling finger at the sign that mocked him from the front yard. The crisp white letters against the bright red background seemed to dance with malicious glee. That she, Devil, actually did it? Mildred, finally extricating herself from the taxi, gasped. But, but how? We own this house, we have the deeds. Her carefully applied makeup seemed to crack under the strain of her outrage. Before they could launch into another tirade, the front door swung open. Lily stood framed in the doorway, a calm serenity radiating from her that was a stark contrast to their simmering fury. Beside her stood Rose Petal, a quiet, reassuring presence. Lily, what is the meaning of this? George bellowed, stomping towards the porch. I think the sign speaks for itself, Uncle George, Lily said, her voice even and controlled. The house is sold. You wouldn't. Mildred shrieked, her voice rising to a pitch that threatened to shatter the leaded glass windows. Oh, but I would, Lily replied, a hint of steel in her voice. And I did. The following hour was a whirlwind of accusations, denials, and legal jargon, expertly navigated by Rose. Lily calmly explained her actions, presenting copies of the documents she had unearthed, proving her co-ownership of the property. She outlined the terms of the sale, the offers she had received, and the escrow account where the proceeds were being held. George and Mildred were apoplectic. They sputtered and raged, accusing Lily of everything from forgery to grand larceny. Rose, however, remained unfazed, patiently countering their arguments with facts and legal precedent. Finally, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the lawn, Lily held up her hand. Enough, she said, her voice resonating with authority. I understand your anger, but I want you to understand mine. For years, you have taken advantage of my good nature, manipulating and deceiving me for your own gain. She paused, her gaze softening slightly as she looked at her aunt and uncle. I didn't do this out of spite, but out of necessity. I needed to show you that actions have consequences, and that you can't simply take what isn't yours without repercussions. Lily then offered a compromise. I'm willing to split the proceeds from the sale, but on one condition. You return the necklace. The room fell silent. The necklace, a delicate antique piece that had belonged to Lily's grandmother, had been a point of contention between them for years. George and Mildred had always claimed it was lost, but Lily knew they had pawned it long ago to finance one of their extravagant vacations. George shifted uncomfortably, avoiding Lily's gaze. Mildred, however, was defiant. We don't have it, she snapped. It's gone. Then you will have to buy it back, Lily said simply. Consider it the price of doing business. The thought of parting with even a single penny sent shivers down George's spine, but the alternative, losing half the house's sale price, was even more unbearable. He and Mildred huddled together, whispering furiously. Finally, they emerged, their faces grim. The next morning, Lily received a call from a local pawn shop. The necklace was there, waiting for her. George and Mildred, it turned out, had spent the entire night scouring the tourist traps, desperately trying to recoup their losses. They had sold their gaudy souvenirs, their duty-free perfumes, even the garish Hawaiian shirts they had bought on a whim. When Lily retrieved the necklace, it felt like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. It wasn't just the monetary value of the piece, it was the sentimental connection to her grandmother, a symbol of her family history. As for the proceeds from the house sale, Lily kept her word. She divided the money equally with George and Mildred, but before doing so, she donated a significant portion to a local charity that provided housing for low-income families. It was a small act of defiance, a way of using the situation to do some good in the world. Standing in the now empty house, Lily fastened the necklace around her neck. The cool metal felt comforting against her skin. She had faced her betrayers, claimed what was rightfully hers, and emerged stronger, more resilient than ever before. The house was sold, but Lily's spirit remained unbroken. The chapter was closed, but the story was far from over.